The words that you have may reach someone that you may never meet in life, but those words can change that person's life.
Hi, I'm Henika Watkins, Porter, speaker, coach, author of Podcast Power, inviting you to listen to the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast, brought to you by C. Ruth Taylor, best-selling indie author and the Caribbean's most trusted voice on entrepreneurship. Get ready to dominate entrepreneurship.
It's episode 215 of the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Dr. C. Ruth Taylor, and in today's penultimate show before our annual break, we are going to be interviewing the author of this book, Delayed But Not Denied, The Art of Waiting on God. That's Luchelle Marie Josiah. And Luchelle was one of the winners of the Small Book Big Impact Challenge that was held in November 2025. And we're hoping to close out this season with another winner from the Small Book Big Impact Challenge next week. So today will be primarily the interview with Luchelle, and I'll talk to you about the latest in my authorpreneurship adventures. And so stay tuned.
Your book is the perfect spark to get the fire going in your personal life, career, business, or ministry. Light that book spark.
All right. What's the latest in my authorpreneurship ventures? As graduation is coming up. That's on the 6th of June. And I'm releasing a book on the 6th of June. That's my dissertation, which has been converted to a book. And that book is Authorpreneur Secrets Blueprint. It's a proven research-based model to turn your book into a profitable business. And it's about how you can implement the Axe Authorpreneur model, which I developed coming out of the doctoral dissertation. So it's a very practical tool. You could call this part 2 or book 2 to Authorpreneur Secrets, of which the show is named after. And then going forward, what I'm going to be doing in terms of interviewing folks and discussion, I'm really going to streamline it and insert acts into it, which is converting your story and expertise into a book that becomes an asset, that's intellectual property asset that you can use as a business card or a ministry card, and then develop transformational programs with the book, use the book as a transformational guide, and then set up systems for sustainable income. So the Authorpreneur Secrets Blueprint is really a breakdown of the ACTS model and combining the whole thing of writing fast, publishing cost effectively, and then generating lasting income. The Authorpreneur Secrets Blueprint is for you if you're already an author, and we have an ACTS diagnostic test in it. So you would have to test if you have a book that can already serve as to conduct an ACTS pilot. So one of the things that I'm going to be doing in the future is conducting ACTS pilots with authors, helping them to develop their own authorpreneurship initiatives with their books. I'm going to be doing that with church and community, with individual authors, with different organizations. And I'm going to have an Authorpreneur Secrets Accelerator program, and I'm going to be having some courses as well. And perhaps when I come back in October, when the show resumes, the courses will already be created, and I'll be able to say, go here to register for the course. And so you can download the Authorpreneur Secrets Blueprint slide deck at authorpreneursecrets.com or authorpreneursecrets.com/blueprint. Authorpreneur Secrets Blueprint is coming out. That's the ebook. I am investigating how to use Shopify and Book Vault to sell the hard copy or the print copy directly from my website. So by the time the show resumes in October, that should be in place. And this is really talking about that your book is not just an end product, it's a genesis of an ecosystem. And so this book will help you to build that ecosystem around your book that you can create sustainable income faster than selling books. The last time I took a break, I was working on my dissertation. So we were doing the dissertation research, and I started taking breaks in an effort to complete my doctoral studies. Now, those studies are over, and graduation is June 6th in Dallas, Texas. And so I am now in preparation mode for that. And when the podcast returns, I'll be able to tell you all about it. And in going to graduation, there are a number of books that I want to give away. Unfortunately, Authorpreneur Secrets Blueprint, the print version wouldn't be ready to give that as gifts to anybody. But from calling to completion, I'm going to be giving away some of those, as well as Making Sense of 9 to 5, because these books emerged out of my studies. So about 4 or 5 books have emerged out of my studies. And what I'm excited about is that I've begun writing a novella, and that's given me great joy. One of the things about writing novellas, especially, is that it's kind of like writing my way into hope. And writing is therapeutic. I saw something recently about just if you just sit 20 minutes to write, to process whatever it is that you're going through, what it really does for your brain and your heart and your soul. And these are objective studies and reports. And writing has always been that for me. And that novella, I don't know if I'm ever going to release it, at least not in the short term. But as I am writing, it's as if my pen is prophetic. So the things that I am writing about, some of them are already manifesting. And so that one is personal and private, but I thought I'd just share it, how writing can be beneficial. Again, I want to thank all the persons who purchased from Calling to Completion, all those who attended the Triple Treasure celebration. I do have to print a lot of Calling to Completion to give away as gifts to my PLC team and to those who endorsed the book. And after graduation, I'll be giving away those to folks. So it's the end of a chapter, so to speak, and it's almost the end of this season. This episode is particularly important, and it falls in line with what we've been discussing in terms of seasons of waiting, because from my doctoral studies, from calling, from the time I was applying and conceiving and then getting into the program, staying into the program 11 years, that's 12 years. And so I had to go through over a decade of waiting for this thing to be completed. And some of you are in seasons of waiting. And for those of you who are Christian, if you believe God has promised you something and it doesn't seem as if it's going to happen, I trust that the interview with Luchelle will encourage you and to give you hope that you will be patient in the pause and that you will find purpose in the pause. Today I have with me Luchelle Marie Josiah. She's a writer whose work explores themes of waiting, trust, identity, and personal transformation. She's a graduate of Vision International College and Seminary, where she earned an Associate of Ministry degree. Drawing on lived experiences, biblical insight, and reflective storytelling, Luchelle writes for believers and those simply seeking meaning in seasons of delay. Her message resonates with anyone navigating uncertainty while holding on to hope. Delayed but Not Denied is her debut book. It has to do with the art of waiting on God. It is her invitation to discover purpose, peace, and growth, even when fulfillment takes longer than expected. And Luchelle was one of the winners of the Small Book Big Impact Challenge that was held in November 2025. Without further ado, let's welcome Luchelle to the show. Welcome, Luchelle.
Thank you. It's my honor and pleasure to be here, Dr. Ruth.
It is such a pleasure to have you. I read this book and it ministered to me. The editor that I had to do the product proofing was also ministered to. And so that we know that there's purpose in the pause, right?
Yes, there is.
But before we get into the book itself and your writing process, tell us a little bit about your Caribbean background because you have an accent that is not like mine.
Well, I'm a Guyanese by birth, the second of 7 children. Trinidad has been my home for the past 35 years. So I lovingly call myself a Guy Trin. Yes, being raised in the Caribbean with a strong Christian background and the Caribbean culture on a whole has exposed me to strong faith, close community connections, resilience, and we can't leave out the humor. Caribbean people have, a weird sense of humor and perseverance, even during times of difficult seasons of my life, like my mom passing when I was just about 3 years old. Those experiences, I believe, has shaped my perspective, my voice, and the passion behind my writing. It was in those seasons that, you know, um, I found, a certain depth and strength. And I believe that's even within the whole Caribbean, our Caribbean people, there's a certain depth and strength that comes from them. And I think pieces of those naturally found their way in my life and in my writing. So that's just basically a little bit about my Caribbean background.
Thank you for that. You have had a life filled with many challenges. You spoke about your mom passing when you were just 3 years old. I'm so sorry to hear about that. And that leads me to the title of the book and some of the things that you have written. Philip Yancey has a book called Disappointment with God. It's been one of my favorite books. And many people who are facing delayed dreams and hopes and things taking so long, they're often disappointed with God. So, the title of your book, I find it very intriguing. What's the story behind your book, Delayed but Not Denied: The Art of Waiting on God?
Delayed but not denied. Was birthed out of the very first sermon I preached at my local church, that's in Trinidad, for Mother's Day, way back in May 2009. Yes, like Abraham and Sarah, my ex-husband and I received two prophetic words from two different ministers who were visiting our assembly on two separate occasions, didn't know us, meeting us for the first time. And they prophesied that we were going to have a child.
Mm.
However, what unfolded after that prophetic word became a journey filled with long seasons of waiting, lots of disappointments, questions, faith, and ultimately, in the end, it was having a deeper spiritual understanding. The journey is the story I now share in this book. During that season, it was really hard. It was really hard because what unfolded after, it was nothing that we were expecting. And it was during that time of pain and uncertainty and, lots of disappointment. I received, strangely, what I call a divine download of not just the title of this book, but the names of all the chapters. It was originally supposed to be a volume 1 and volume 2 book. So that's the whole story behind this book. To me, it's more than just a story. It's an encouragement to anyone who may be navigating seasons of waiting, uncertainty, silence. I want this book to remind them that delay does not always mean denial. There is purpose in that pause. I have lived it, I've experienced it. There's purpose in that pause. And, you know, if they need the full story, just purchase the book.
Why Abraham and Sarah as the model for delayed but not denied?
Because Abraham and Sarah, the sermon that I preached, it was centered around Abraham and Sarah. The sermon was the topic was the same as delayed but not denied. And somehow my experience mirrored Abraham and Sarah's story, mirrored the experience that I was now faced with. And having to wait on the promise of this child. So that resonated with me. And during those years, one of the things I kept telling God, I said, God, I do not want to be Sarah. I don't want to be Sarah. So that it resonated with me, and I found peace and hope in Sarah's and Abraham's story. It encouraged me. It gave me that drive that I need to just keep walking and holding on to faith in God. Though, still at this point, I am still waiting for that promise to be fulfilled. So it's a mirror of what I have had to live. And it certainly wasn't an easy journey for me having to do that. It came with a lot of pains. And, at one point I was so angry with God because the events that unfolded after, I felt like it shattered my whole world. It took me a while before I could actually get up from where I was and just keep moving forward. Yep.
Yeah. So, what do you say to women who are waiting on God, maybe for a child, or like me, when I was 17, it was prophesied that I would get married. I am now, I just celebrated 46. I'm still unmarried. And so, was it a false prophecy? You said you and your husband is now your ex-husband. So was it a false prophecy? So in reading this book, what would you say are the key elements to waiting on God to really truly believe that it may be 25, it may be 30 years, but the promise still stands? What are some of the tips that we're gonna get to navigate this journey of waiting and to believe that whatever has been prophesied has not been denied?
Okay, one of the things, God's word cannot lie, will not lie. And though sometimes most times, in many cases, he uses men to, and prophecy, I've learned that prophecy has to be judged. Or you may get a word of prophecy coming to you, and that word has to be judged. You have to measure that against the word of God. And for people who are waiting on whatever the promise might be, one thing I have discovered during my time, it's not sometimes that the word might be a lie, but even though we may get a word from a prophecy, a word from God, I have learned that sometimes we may not even receive what we what was promised to us. We may not receive. And it's not because God is a liar. It's not. Because if we read the Hall of Faith with the forefathers before, like Abraham and Gideon and David, and so many of them that have joined the cloud of witnesses, many of them waited for a promise that they never received. But one of the things that they did, they held on to faith in God. It did not change who God was, who God is. And sometimes, though we may get a promise because of different circumstances, sometimes we may not see it materialize. That does not change the fact that God is God. And that's the thing. We were made to believe that sometimes, we may get a word, or we may read something in the Bible, and somebody may tell us something, and we were made to believe that it would always come to pass. There are two sides of faith. The faith in expecting what was promised to come to pass, and then there's that faith, okay, if it doesn't happen, am I going to give up on God? Am I going to, you know, believe that God is not who he said? We are never taught the other side of faith. Even if you do not get what you believe God for, what was promised, what was said, even if it doesn't happen, that does not change who God is. And that is something that we need to learn, because of varying circumstances, God is God. Like, for instance, I have been waiting for more than 25 years. When that promise was made to us, that prophecy came, I was just about 24 years. Now I am 50, unmarried, divorced, and it hasn't come to pass. And I have to hold on to God. Whether or not it happened, there's a hope in me that it would. But even if it doesn't, it does not change who God is, and it does not say that what those ministers spoke to us was a lie. It doesn't.
Well, that's controversial. But saying to somebody that you and your husband will have a child, it's one of the mark of a true prophet is that what they say come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you both are still alive, so the alternative is to believe in terms of the timing of God. Because like when God said to Abram, you will be a father of many nations. I think if we look at the timeline, there was an overlap with Abraham and Isaac. But if you look at it, Isaac only had what? Two children. Abraham ended up with two. And then for a long time, for at least 25 years, you didn't see many nations coming to pass. The promise of the virgin shall give birth to a child, that was over 700 years, right?
Mm.
So looking at it like that, but there are also conditional promises. So was it a conditional prophetic word or promise, or was it unconditional? So, or was it just simply false? Somebody being excited and said something or misinterpreted. We have to be open to all of those possibilities if we are to be truthful, because there are those who think they're hearing from God and they're not. And
True.
but what you are saying, though, I do believe, regardless of the outcome, God is still God. And so it's about maintaining faith despite Elizabeth and Zachariah, for example, they were praying for years. And it's when they pretty much had given up that John came. So there are those things to wrestle with, and each person has to come up with that. So what do you want people to take away when they read your book? What are some of the takeaways?
The one thing that I really want people to take away is hope.
Ah.
Hope that the delay sometimes doesn't mean that it's a denial. It doesn't mean that, you may not get what you want. It doesn't mean that God has forgotten you. He has abandoned you. I want people to understand that during those seasons of having to wait, those very seasons carry purpose. They can carry purpose, carry growth, carry preparation. It's based on how we, the perspective that we have, how we see it, how we choose to look at it. And it's my prayer that, whoever would read this book, that it would really encourage them. It would really encourage them to trust God, even when life does not unfold the way we expect it to. So that's the one thing I want people to walk away with is that hope that, even if life doesn't turn out the way I expect it to, there is a purpose, there is a reason. It could be a preparation, God preparing you for something else. Character is being built, formed in those seasons that we sometimes don't even see it, we don't even understand until maybe sometimes years after, when we look back, look in the review mirror, and we realize, wow, imagine that. If I didn't go through that, I would not have been, you know. So that's what I want people to really walk away with, that hope.
I love it. And it is so true because there's so much growth and development that has taken place in my single season. I am very happy that I have not gotten married yet because who I was compared to who I am now, totally different persons. And the single season has served me well. Now, I did a quick calculation. You said you got this download from 2009. And this
Mhm.
is 17 years later. Why did the book take so long to be published? And what was the role of the Small Book Big Impact Challenge in bringing this book to life?
Um, when I started writing the book, I wrote, at the time I was back in Trinidad. I'm in the US at the moment. And I wrote, I can't remember how many chapters. And then there was a season when it wasn't so much a writer's block, but the direction I thought the book was going to go, was heading in. I realized it wasn't the direction. Somehow I couldn't figure it out anymore. So I just put it down. I stopped writing. Literally, I stopped writing. And during that season, I had an experience, where I refer to it as, like hell, literal hell broke loose in my house. And there were certain things I had in the book that I'd written, and I believed, it was God. And then one day I was sitting in my porch, and on my porch, and I heard the Holy Spirit speaking to me, and I had to go and literally delete pages and pages, from this book. And I just left it. I just left it. And when I came to the US here, I mean, I had a friend before I left Trinidad. I had a friend I was working with, and she would always tell me, when she knew I was leaving, she said to me, she said, Luchelle, when you're coming back, you're coming back with your book. And she would always keep saying this. And I honestly, Dr. Ruth, I never take her on at all. Because in my mind, yeah, you're just saying that. But she kept saying it, she kept saying it. And when you had the small book, big impact challenge, that in itself was a testimony. Because around that time I was praying, I said, Lord, send me destiny helpers and give me opportunities. And it was amazing how that connected. Before I was telling myself, I said, Luchelle, you need to finish this book. You need to finish this book. I picked it up. I did a chapter. I put it down. And I keep saying, you need to finish this book. You need to finish this book. And then here you came in the birthing room and presented us with this challenge. And that challenge motivated me to, if it was just for one moment, a simple moment, just shift my attention from away from the obscurity, my current obscurity, and just focus on finally completing the book. That is what that challenge did to me. And it took me a lot of faith. It was a journey of faith. I mean, discipline. I had to be disciplined and I had to be persistent within the space of time that we had to actually finish. So I am truly happy and I give God praise because when I look at it, I said, wow, it was like everything was just being divinely orchestrated and I didn't even know. I mean, I am still in a place where I can't even believe that, hey, this is complete. It's complete. Here we are today. I mean, it's amazing. It's overwhelming. I don't even know how to describe how I feel about this whole, but one of the things is that I am truly, truly grateful. Truly, truly grateful because I've seen where God orchestrated everything and just put the pieces together that this is a reality today. So thank you for that challenge. To be honest, I haven't really sat down and think about all of that, like detailed, but I know one of the things I would like to do because I have a heart for people, especially young women and even older women as well. And I would probably like to get this book, like different workshops, maybe within the churches, whether it be a ladies group, having like a seminar, different seminars probably, where, I can help people, women, generally young women navigate and help them to understand, the season that they may be in waiting and, with all the disappointments and wanting to know how am I going to get through this? Will I get through this? So those are some of the things that in the future I would like to, to do with regards to the book, getting it into the hands of people, doing different workshops and maybe, if not just sale, just, using it as a tool where I can, give back, you know. So those are just one of the simple things. I haven't thought, way ahead as yet, but that's just one of the things I would want to do, see happen with the book.
And that's okay. That's exactly what is my goal in working with authors. And you notice you use the word tool. So the T there is a transformational tool. And keep thinking about it. Everything won't come, but it's a ministry tool already and to create further impact. So congratulations. And the book itself is an example of delayed but not denied. Look how long
Yep.
you are sitting on it. That's what, 17 years, almost 2
17.
decades. and
Mm-hmm.
we're happy to help you. So, for those who are wondering, the Small Book Big Impact Challenge is a free writing challenge that I host every year. It has had different names. And so we have a book called Small Book Big Impact. And then for 30 days, we encourage you to write a small book that will have a big impact. And we meet weekly to do the writing sprints. Luchelle was a part of that. And as part of the prize, I had 4 categories that the winners would get 2 months free access to my Authorpreneur Secrets membership group, which is a publishing support group and a group to help you to introduce you to author entrepreneurship and or authorpreneurship. And so Luchelle got the 2 months and she had a publishing coach to work with. And now, how can readers contact you and get this book?
Okay, they can contact me via my Facebook and Instagram page at Luchelle Sweets. If they search for Luchelle Sweets, they will find me both on Instagram and Facebook. Um, they can also contact me via email, Luchelle Josiah at gmail.com. So I can be reached via those three media platforms, and also on the Amazon author page. I have an Amazon author page, amazon.com author Luchelle Josiah. So they can reach me there as well.
Awesome sauce. So I know when this podcast goes out, the ebook has been published, and I believe the paperback is coming out on the 24th of May after this podcast is aired. So please go get it and leave a review. Luchelle and I will be deeply appreciative of your support. Any final words for authors, Luchelle? Those are thinking about writing a book, and maybe like you, it has taken long. It took me more than a decade to write my first one. Any word of advice to those listening?
Honestly, my advice would be just start. Based on my experience during this journey, I learned a couple things. One, I learned that writing a book is not just about talent. It's about consistency, courage, vulnerability, perseverance. You know, people, you will experience moments of, delay, setbacks, sometimes even fear. But just keep writing anyway. Don't wait for that perfect, you know, moment or conditions to be perfect to begin writing. Start with the message that you have now, the burden that, you might be carrying, the story that's in your heart, that lesson that just refuses to leave. Just start right now where you're at. I would encourage writers, upcoming writers, don't spend your whole life, I mean, your whole life waiting to feel fully qualified, to feel, fully confident or fully ready, because trust me, you may never ever feel those things. You may never ever feel that way. That I can do this, I can really do this. You may never feel that way. And if you're waiting to feel those feelings, your story may never come out. You may never write. So just start writing. One of the other things I learned during this process as well, and I'll encourage upcoming writers as myself, is don't compare your journey to another writer's timeline. Every book has its own process, and every author has their own voice. So be patient with your process. I mean, mine took 17 years. 17 years. So be patient with your process and stay true to your voice because people connect with authenticity rather than perfection. You know, when you are true and to who you are, people would connect faster than you trying to be perfect. So stay true to your voice and don't underestimate, never underestimate the power of your story. Don't underestimate it because the words that you have may reach someone that you may never meet in life. But those words can change that person's life. It could change, it could transform their life. So don't be hesitant to share your story because someone out there, somewhere, may need to hear it. So that's my little advice to upcoming writers.
That was truly inspiring. And so thank you so much, Luchelle, for making it to the show. And we look forward to your other books because I know you have some more in the making.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Ruth. It's been a pleasure and an honor just being here. And thank you for all that you've done for making this possible, you know, and making delayed but not denied a reality. Thank you.
And we say also thank you to your publishing coach, Jody and
Oh,
Demercado,
yes.
for the tremendous role that she played.
Thank you, Jody, and congratulations in advance. I told her she's stuck with me. She has been very patient. I mean, very encouraging. I mean, Jody, from the start to the finish, oh my goodness, there wasn't one day that Jody did not encourage me and made me feel, Luchelle, this is possible. She was so excited more than I was. So, Jody, thank you.
All right. I trust that you found that interview with Luchelle inspiring and insightful, and that you will be encouraged to find purpose in the pause and purpose in the delay. This is Ruth Taylor reminding you of making many books. There is no end. Go pen it to win it and dominate authorpreneurship. Ta for now. Until next time.